There was a time when Kickstarter represented a fresh and exciting prospect for video games. Video games that otherwise wouldn't stand a chance in hell. So much optimism, but is the same still true today?
Games on Kickstarter had a huge year in 2017, with the amount of money raised for game-related projects up by about a third on the year before. The twist though is that video games make up a pretty small part of the games category as a whole, and they're pretty much flatlining on the platform. Quick reminder before we move on, Kickstarter is the thing where people like game developers list proposals for an idea or a project and ask for funding from fans so they can get it made. Crowdfunding. It's not limited to video games by any means. It can be board games, card games, and all kinds of other projects in different fields like technology. Well, Luke Crane, head of games at Kickstarter, revealed on Twitter this week that 7,033 game projects launched on the site in 2017, and 2,997 of those were successfully funded. But video games are letting the side down in that department, with board games seeing serious success in comparison.
According to figures shown to Polygon by Kickstarter, crowdfunding for games as a whole on Kickstarter was up about $36 million year on year, which is about 30%. Tabletop accounted for most of that, with average support per campaign rising from $59,000 to $65,000. The average Kickstarter campaign for video games, on the other hand, earned around $48,000 compared with about $45,000 the year before. That is a modest increase year on year, but still a massive drop from 2015's average campaign total of around $110,000. Video games received $17 million in pledges on Kickstarter last year, compared to more than $136 million for board games. And the number of tabletop projects successfully funded was up by 400 to over 2,100 across the year. Meanwhile, the number of video games successfully backed was down by 30 to 358 on 2016.
And according to figures shared by market intelligence firm ICO Partners last year, the number of successful board game campaigns has seen a steady rise since Kickstarter first started. Video games, on the other hand, have stayed pretty flat, and maybe the most telling comparison is that on average, around 1/4 of video game projects actually succeed in getting funding, compared to 2/3 of board game projects. Video games really took off on Kickstarter in 2012, when Tim Schafer's Double Fine adventure, now called Broken Age, raised $1 million in under 24 hours. It went on to raise $3.3 million. That was an unprecedented sum for Kickstarter at the time, with 60,000 people coming to the site to support it. Kickstarter even thanked Double Fine publicly for the huge impact they had on the site. Since then, we've seen multi-million-dollar projects rolling in, like Wasteland 2, Obsidian's Pillars of Eternity, Elite Dangerous, Mighty No. 9, actual tech like Oculus Rift VR, and of course the mighty Star Citizen, which has now raised $175 million. But the number of failures have increased as well over the years, with 300 projects failing to get funded in 2011 and 1,400 failing just a year later. So we'll start off with another little fun fact for you here. Last year, Star Citizen raised $34.9 million, which is actually more than all video games on Kickstarter combined that year, which was 17 million, which we told you in the voiceover there. So Star Citizen is so big that it's bigger than all other games on Kickstarter. It's just massive. Why are games flatlining on Kickstarter? I think there's loads of things going on.
The first thing might be that Kickstarter, people who might have backed Kickstarter in the past and not paid their money and not actually received the thing that they've backed, because there's all sorts of people scamming things these days on the internet. That's just how it is, unfortunately. That's just part and parcel of the risk that you're taking back in the Kickstarter. So those people who have been burned in the past are less likely to want to support something in the future.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's easier to get a bad experience in something like this, where you promise someone loads of stuff, you promise them the game of their dreams, and then it comes out and it's not quite the game of their dreams. It's much easier to be disappointed, and there are kind of high profile cases like Mighty No. 9 and stuff, where most people were disappointed with how that game turned out, and they were so excited for like a Mega Man spiritual successor, and it just didn't turn out to be what they were hoping for whatever reason. That's a very high profile case of that happening. There's just a few cases where there's been Kickstarter flops, and there's like the biggest Kickstarter flop stories and stuff like that floating around on the internet, and all that kind of thing just creates this skepticism, I guess, if not overall negativity. The other case is as well that there's other options for developers, because they've got sites like Fig and things now as well, where it just works a bit differently, but they seem to prefer it. Pillars of Eternity 2, I think, was on Fig, and that raised loads of money straight away. And there are other platforms, and not only that, there's other ways of doing it. There's early access. There's other means of supporting a game before it comes out, and you can actually play it. In the case of early access, you can actually have a spin on it and do some kind of sandbox sandbox mode, or some part of the game will be available to you, not the finished product, but you can still play and enjoy that while giving the developers money. It's just competition.
Early access is like an easy way for developers to scam them, Mike, because they don't have that barrier in place, so you don't have to meet any sort of goal like you do on Kickstarter.
Just
so early access, they're just pillaging money off you, and then there's so many. Anyway, that's a totally different video. People scamming early access. Beware, guys. Just beware. Kickstarter, early access, wherever you're putting your money before you get your product, just beware. And that's not going to do any good to the numbers of Kickstarter next year. Sorry, Kickstarter.
Definitely not flying a flag here.
Have you ever supported anything on Kickstarter, and how did that go? Was it a success? Was it a failure? Let us know down in the comments below. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Check out some more of our content on the screen there. Support us on Patreon if you are awesome. We will see you again in the next video. Bye for now.